I'd like to call the January 28th, 2019 Blue Springs Planning Commission meeting to order. And if I could ask you to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening and those watching. Our agenda for this evening is the consent agenda, followed by a public hearing on rezoning on 309 Southwest 18th Street Terrace. Item 3 is a public hearing rezoning for Verdad, I guess I'm not sure if I said that right, self-storage Blue Springs. Also, that will be followed by the public hearing rezoning on KC Bobcat. Item 5 is the public hearing conditional use permit for KC Bobcat. Item 6 is also a public hearing for conditional use permit for Stortropolis of Blue Springs. Item 7 is the site plan design review for KC Bobcat. Item 8 is also the site plan design review for Stortropolis, followed by other business. On item, I believe we'll be hearing item 4 alone, and then we will do item 5 and 7 together, by the way, if you want to make note of that. And of course, items 6 and 8 are related to one another. So with that, I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner?
I move that the Planning Commission meeting minutes from January 14th be approved as submitted by staff.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, consent agenda is carried. So item 2. Now, let me just give you the instructions for the public hearing, then I'll go for all the public hearings. I will open the public hearing, call for the exhibits from our city attorney. Then the staff will make their presentation. The applicant will be able to go ahead and come forward and make their presentation, followed by witnesses in favor and also those opposed. Then after we have general discussion with the commissioners, I'll close the public hearing and we'll vote, and then our recommendation will go to the city council. All right, with that, I will open the public hearing for 309 Southwest 18th rezoning and ask for the attorney to read our exhibits, please.
Madam Chair, I offer the following exhibits into the record. Exhibit 1, staff report with attachments. 2, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on January 12, 2019. 3, application with attachments. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title IV Land Use Section Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference.
Okay, thank you. We have Mr. Wright.
Yep. Thank you, Chairman Beggs and Commissioners. Before this evening is a request to rezone property located at 309 Southwest 18th Street Terrace from T3 suburban to SF7 single-family residential. The subject property covers 0.09 acres and is currently in the downtown zoning district. The property was recently subdivided and added to the lot to the south, which is outside of the downtown zoning district and zoned SF7. The applicant is currently building a new single-family house on the primary lot to the south, where there previously was a home, was demolished, and rebuilding a new home there. They've added the 0.09 acres outlined on the screen to that property and will be developing it as a single lot. They are proposing a detached garage on a portion of the property, so the detached garage straddles both zoning districts. Rather than having two different sets of development requirements on the property, the applicant would like to rezone the smaller portion of the property to the SF7 single-family zoning district. This is the current outline of the downtown zoning district. The brighter yellow is the T3 zoning district, and then the lighter yellow is SF7. Since being adopted in 2007, this would be the first request to rezone out of the downtown zoning district, which is generally discouraged. However, staff does not believe that this would set a new precedent. as it's a landlocked property and is being developed in conjunction with an existing property that's outside of the downtown zoning district. The Downtown Review Board did review the rezoning request and does recommend approval of the rezoning, and staff also recommends approval of the rezoning request. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wright? Thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward? No? Okay. Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicant to make them come forward? No? All right. Well, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this applicant's request? Anyone in opposition? Hearing none, is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair? Oh,
Yes.
go ahead. I yield to Jackie.
Okay.
I was just curious if it is in fact an 1,800 square foot garage.
You'd have to ask Mr. Wright.
Yeah, that is what is proposed, and that does meet the size requirements in the SF7 zoning district.
It does.
Yes.
It seems like that's larger than some people's home.
So for an accessory structure, it's 10% of the total lot area. So you can have a larger garage if you have a larger lot.
Okay, is there potential to have a business operating out of that garage?
No. No, the main reason for a larger garage is there would be an RV stored in there and some other vehicles, but it would not be business. A business is not allowed to operate on a residential property.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner?
Out of the 185-foot notification letters, were any returned?
Yes, Corner Ventures, LLC.
And also, were there any letters of opposition that were received?
No.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I would entertain a motion for a public hearing of the rezoning.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner?
I move that rezoning request RZ 01196742 for 309 Southwest 18th Street Terrace be approved as submitted by staff.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Casey? Okay, that will be a roll call, please.
Planning Commissioner Graham,
Aye.
Commissioner Fairbanks,
Aye.
Commissioner Peel,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Haney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casey,
Aye.
Chairman Banks.
Aye. Motion carried. That will be heard in front of our recommendation will be forward to the City Council. They will hear it February the 4th, and they meet at 6 o'clock. All right, thank you. All right, now we'll go on to the next public hearing. I will also open the public hearing for rezoning of Redad Self-Storage, and with the attorney, please read the exhibits.
Madam Chair, I offer the following exhibits into the record. Exhibit 1, staff report with attachments. 2, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on January 12, 2019. 3, application with attachments. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title IV Land Use Section Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wright again.
All right, thank you, Chairman Banks and Commissioners. Before this evening is a request to rezone property located at 715 Southwest 7 Highway from GB General Business to RC Regional Commercial. The subject property covers 2.94 acres and is an undeveloped piece of property located west of 7 Highway between the 40 and 7 Highway Quick Trip and the railroad overpass over 7 Highway. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to develop the site as a residential warehouse storage facility in the future. The property was rezoned from light industrial to general business in 1988, but has remained undeveloped over the past 30 years. The previous zoning district would have permitted the residential warehouse storage use by right. The comprehensive plan defines the property as corridor reinvestment, and the specific plan classifies the area as mixed-use general. Both land use designations are generally reserved for areas around the periphery of neighborhood centers, which would include larger retail destinations such as grocery stores and retail shopping centers. In this case, the location lies around the periphery of 3 major retail centers at the the corners of 40 and 7 Highway. The proposed land use and zoning district is appropriate adjacent to areas that are not prime for retail and other higher traffic land uses due to access limitations along 7 Highway. The RC zoning district is intended to accommodate commercial land uses that serve community and regional needs and is appropriate adjoining major highways such as 7 and 40 highways. There's already been a precedent set for regional commercial zoning in certain areas along 40 highway, including a recent rezoning just on the west side of Quick Trip for Tidal Wave Car Wash. The site is also bordered by light industrial zoning to the west, as well as numerous other areas of light industrial along the railroad, along South Avenue as well as 10th Street. However, this would be the first rezoning to RC that actually has 7 Highway frontage. It does have limited access to 7 Highway. Due to limitations, it would be difficult to develop the property with a larger traffic generating land use that is typical of general business zoning districts, which would include retail, restaurants, and offices. Access is limited through the Quick Trip parking lot only on this site due to the grade elevation and the access restrictions due to the proximity of the railroad overpass. A service use that requires limited customer interaction is ideal for the subject property as traffic generation is minimal. The applicant has provided some preliminary site plans and building elevations for the site. Preliminary site plan does show a single building, 3 stories, approximately 99,000 square feet with up to 739 storage units. And then some preliminary building elevations, which are just preliminary at this time. If the rezoning is approved, a conditional use permit, site plan design review, and final plat must all be approved prior to development. Staff does recommend approval of the rezoning request, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for staff?
Madam Chair? Oh,
Just a moment.
I yield to Jackie.
Just as a verification, is there going to be an easement driveway to share the drive with Quick Trip?
Yes, and that's already platted. That was platted back in 2016 with the Quick Trip final plat. So there already is an access easement in place.
Okay, so you're not concerned about congestion along 7 Highway where they might try to enter 7 Highway from that location?
There wouldn't be any change to the traffic circulation that would already exist with Quick Trip. And so that would all be reviewed with any amendments to the traffic study that Quick Trip has already prepared. So they will be required to look at that, but generally the amount of traffic that the storage facility would generate is minimal compared to what a retail use or Quick Trip generates at that location.
Okay, those were my 2 concerns.
Commissioner, did you have a question?
I'm good, thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Casey.
Mr. Wright, how many parking spaces are planned for this location?
It's still, that still hasn't been reviewed yet.
Okay.
I believe when we met with them before, it calculated around 74 spaces would be required
Okay, thank you.
based on the number of units that they're proposing.
All right, any other questions? This is just rezoning? All right. Hearing none, would the applicant like to come forward? And you'll need to be sworn in, sir.
Oh,
Give your name and address.
James Montgomery. Just a second.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Need your name and address.
James Montgomery, 3 Central Drive, Metairie, Louisiana, 70005. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is James Montgomery. I'm here on behalf of Verdad Real Estate, which is a real estate development firm out of South Lake, Texas, which is the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. We're very excited about what we hope will be our second development in Blue Springs. We actually developed the Hardys at 910 Southwest Missouri 7. It's about 250 yards away from this new project. This development, as he said, will be a 99,000 square foot self-storage facility, Class A, all climate control, that will be third-party managed by Extra Space Storage out of Salt Lake City, Utah. In regards to the zoning change, planning staff did an excellent job. I don't really have that many further points to make. But one thing I do want to add, though, is in addition to the site's topography, limited access, and its kind of position between an industrial park and a railroad, which sort of limit its potential from a traditional retail standpoint, the site is also heavily deed restricted by Quick Trip. The restrictions include a grocery store, drugstore, donut shop, coffee shop, fast food restaurant, drive-up restaurant, smoke shop, liquor store, gas stations. You can't sell pizza, sandwiches, snacks, or carbonated beverages. So the issues with the site are both physical and legal, and the changing of the zoning to a designation that allows more non-traditional retail uses, I think, really encourages the probability of it eventually being developed. That was just the one thing I wanted to point out. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to do my best to answer them. I also have Ron Cowger with us, who's our civil engineer from Kansas City, who can probably go a little bit more specific if you'll have any questions.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Commissioner Fairbanks?
I don't have a question. I'm curious on your 3 levels.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to grade for the lower level and then have your driveway around the second and the top floors, or is it going to be all 3 floors on top of the same level as where Quick Trip is?
All 3 will be, we're not going to go any lower than the current grade, so the traffic around it will be access to the ground floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is kind of a new concept around here as far as having a drive-in and storage 3-story. So it's a new concept in Blue Springs, I think.
Gotcha.
Any other
Chair?
questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Montgomery, is there on-site 7-day, 24-hour security?
In terms of personal human security guards on.
That's correct, yes.
I do not know as of yet if that's in the plan. I mean, it'll certainly during the hours of operations, but I don't know yet if we'll have a security guard there 24 hours a day. As of now, it's looking as if the units will all be accessed internally to the property, so that you won't be able to get to them from the exterior, if that makes sense.
And by the way, this is just rezoning, so they will have to come back again, all right?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this project? Anyone opposed? All right. Any other questions or comments? For the commissioners? All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And I would entertain a motion for Verdad Self-Storage for rezoning.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner?
I move that rezoning request RZ 01196740 for Verdad Self-Storage Blue Springs be approved as submitted by staff.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Fairbanks? This will be a roll call.
Planning Commissioner Graham.
Aye.
Commissioner Fairbanks.
Aye.
Commissioner Peel.
Aye.
Commissioner Sanderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Haney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casey.
Aye.
Chairman Banks.
Aye. Motion carried. Motion was approved. It will be heard, and our recommendation will go to the City Council. They'll hear it February the 4th at 6 p.m. And so the rezoning for Verdad self-storage has been approved. Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go to the public hearing and rezoning. Are we going to, you're going to hear this alone?
Just the rezoning.
Okay, so I'll open the public hearing for Casey Bobcat and ask for the our attorney to read the exhibits.
Madam Chair, I offer the following exhibits into the record. Exhibit 1, staff report with attachments. 2, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on January 12, 2019. 3, application with attachments. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title IV Land Use Section Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Jury.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Before you today is the request to change the zoning of the subject property from Jackson County's agricultural zoning into the city's LI ADPO, which is Light Industrial Adams Dairy Parkway Overlay Zoning District. This request is coming from Randy Vickers on behalf of the property owner, Alan Swearingen. And it is approximately a 0.10 acre parcel that's being proposed to be rezoned. The City Council has heard the request to annex, which came before them on the 22nd of January. And that is subject, or the second hearing of that, as well as the City Council hearing of this rezoning recommendation from you guys, will be heard on February 19th. Just bringing you guys up to date with the annexation. So this is currently in unincorporated Jackson County, and the property owner is requesting to annex and also rezone this property for the purposes of KC Bobcat to incorporate it into their site. This request was not originally included in the original rezoning and annexation, partially because the property owner originally intended to keep the private road, which I'll highlight here, private road which would provide access for this property, the KC Bobcat development, and currently provides partial access for the DirecTV to the east, DirecTV site. The property owner did want to originally keep this as a private road, but circumstances have changed and they are wanting to dedicate it as actually public right-of-way. The 50-foot wide private road isn't as wide as is required for an industrial street, which is 60 feet wide for the right-of-way. So they do need to dedicate 10 feet on the original 6-acre property, which the purpose of this 0.10 acre rezoning and annexation is to get KC Bobcat up to the 6-acre site that they originally wanted. Since they're removing a little bit of acreage on the east property line of their 6-acre site, they're adding acreage to the south of their 6-acre site. So that is the purpose of this request from the applicant, and I'll go into some of the logistics of this site. So it is requested to go to LI ADPO zoning, which, as you can see, to the north, as well as the property to the east, is both LI ADPO, and then HI ADPO is to the west there of the site. It is Jackson County Ag to the south, though. But staff does believe that the requested rezoning is within the character of the neighborhood, and does recommend support of this. The LI ADPO zoning does allow for the requested requested use, subject to conditional use permit, which you will be hearing a little bit later after this agenda item. And any use in the ADPO zoning district is a conditional use if it's in the LI. So any of those uses in LI, such as the outdoor sales and service of equipment, is allowed as a conditional use in the requested zoning district. Staff does believe that this request meets the intent of the comprehensive plan, as well as these underlying zoning district, and Staff does believe that all of the review criteria for zoning change or rezoning are met by this request. So with that, staff recommends approval of this, and I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for staff? Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward? No? All right. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this applicant? Anyone in opposition? With that, I will close. Are there any other comments, buddy? No. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the hearing for the public hearing Casey Bobcat for rezoning, and I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Graham?
I would move for approval of RZ-12-18-6719 for Casey Bobcat.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Haney, roll call, please.
Planning Commissioner Fairbanks,
Aye.
Commissioner Peel,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Haney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casey,
Aye.
Commissioner Graham,
Aye.
Chairman Banks.
Aye. That motion carried. Our recommendation will go to the City Council, and they will hear this on February the 19th at 6 p.m. All right? Now, we will go ahead and I will open the public hearing for Casey Bobcat conditional use permit. And also, we're going to hear that with the site plan. Yes. Okay. All right. And if the attorney will please read the exhibits.
Madam Chair, I offer the following exhibits into the record. 1, staff report with attachments. 2, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on December 29, 2018. 3, application with attachments. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title IV Land Use Section Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Jury?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This request is for the 6-acre site that I previously talked about. It's located south of 40 Highway, about 1,500 feet east of Adams Dairy Parkway. It's one property and currently, and they are proposing to erect a 21,000 square foot building with about a 17,000 square foot footprint of the building, and also pave about 78,000 square feet of area for parking and outdoor sales and storage. The proposed use for the conditional use is the outdoor sales and service for equipment. This property situated this proposal has been heard by the Appearance Review Committee on January 4th, and their only comment was that they did request to include stucco-style panels above the stone on the front or something other than the metal that was originally proposed. Since then, the applicant has addressed the comments, the comments from the Appearance Review Committee, and I'll go over these plans that were changed since that Appearance Review Committee was held. But first off, for the conditional use, the conditional use has several use standards and that are applicable to specifically the outdoor sales and service of equipment. And I'll go through some of these piece by piece. And one of those being that all vehicle equipment storage areas and parking areas are required to be surfaced with specific materials as laid out by the code. The applicant has shown that concrete, asphalt, and or asphalt millings will be used as the finishing surfaces for all equipment storage, parking, and drive areas. So that does meet the intent of that requirement. The proposal has also met the paving area setback for vehicle equipment sales uses, as well as they have delineated the parking areas on the site and driveway minimum or maximums for this property, as well as outlining that they will not be utilizing outdoor loudspeakers as required by this UDC. I'll mention one thing with the screening requirement for vehicle sales and equipment sales. There is a requirement that vehicle bays won't face a right-of-way. Currently, there are some vehicle bays on the east facade that face a proposed right-of-way, but it currently is not an existing right-of-way, and thus a variance request is not applicable in this situation, since there is no code to vary from. This wasn't the original intent. As I mentioned earlier, the intent was to keep it as a private road. Staff believes that it still will act as a private road with a cul-de-sac at the end and meets the intent of the code, as well as there is a section in the UDC that does say that any road dedicated as right-of-way, any nonconformities created by that dedication of road will not create a nonconforming. It will create a nonconforming use, but it's a legal nonconforming use or a grandfathered issue, in other words. So staff doesn't believe that that is an issue in that instance. There is also a use standard for vehicle sales that the use of landscape berm shall be incorporated whenever possible. There is a retaining wall and a significant elevation change on the north side of the site. So staff believes that all the use standards are met with this proposal for the conditional use request. As far as the building and the site plan design review, the proposed building is classified as a general industrial building type, and the proposal meets all setback, massing, and height requirements for that building type. Also, there are additional requirements for the Adamberry Parkway overlay, and it does meet those building, fence, and paving setback requirements, 20 feet, and they're proposing a 21-foot setback for that. And also the building height maximum. I will mention, I talked to the engineer today, and in the staff report it does show a 23-foot proposed building height and a 135-foot maximum building height. The proposed may change between now and the building permit proposal. There may be some reasons the engineer may be able provide with that, but either way, additional 2 feet is still well below the 135-foot maximum building height. As far as vehicle access to this property, there is, the proposal shows 2 driveways connecting to a future right-of-way. Currently is not a right-of-way, so this property does not have any direct access to 40 highway. But there is an existing cross-access easement across the proposed right-of-way that was originally intended to be that private road. So this property does have access to 40 highway via that cross-access easement until the time of annexing and dedicating that road as right-of-way. The parking for the site, there are 80 proposed or 80 required spaces and 81 proposed spaces, so parking is met with this requirement or with this proposal. As far as bicycle parking is required at a rate of 3% of the number of employees. The applicant stated that there would be about 20 employees on site, which requires 1 space, and they have provided the 1 inverted U bike rack detail as shown on this page as well. As far as pedestrian access, there is the required 5-foot public sidewalk that must be installed prior to occupancy along 40 highway. And then there's also the sidewalk along the proposed right-of-way on both sides that shall be installed with the dedication and installation of that private, or when that road is dedicated and installed. and accepted by Public Works. From that public street or public pedestrian network, there is a proposed private sidewalk that will actually connect to the building, as well as a 5-foot sidewalk, as well as an 8-foot sidewalk around the building to connect the pedestrian to any entrance on that front facade of the building. And it is 8 foot as required when there is vehicle overhang. The landscape proposal. Landscape proposal meets and exceeds the required landscaping for this site. The requirement for landscaping only requires 1,039 plant units, and they have provided a little over 1,900 plant units on this property. The majority of those are coming along the existing tree buffer that they will preserve along the west boundary, but overall every location that's required by code has enough plant units, and the 1,100 plant units along the west boundary of existing trees more than meets the requirement for the open space and any other plant units that are required. There is the requirement of the Adams Dairy Parkway overlay that 40% of the site is a minimum of 40% of the site should be landscape area, and they have met this with 42.6% of the site being a landscaped area. The outdoor lighting as well, they are proposing some outdoor lighting, and the photometric plan that they provided does meet this standard. And I'll show that here. On this. So the maximum lighting at the property lines is within the UDC, as well as the minimum required across the parking lot. As far as the building design, the proposal is mainly the proposal shows a 16,965 square foot footprint of the building, and with a second story or a mezzanine, it does jump up to 21,000 square feet approximately. This proposal shows a 23-foot tall building, but as I mentioned earlier, the building permit might increase the size by a couple feet. The exterior of the building is mainly cladded in gray and orange ribbed metal panels, but as requested by the Appearance Review Committee, the applicant did change the front of the building to be textured panels, textured metal panels, but it does have the look of more of a stucco feel or something. The roof-mounted equipment is screened. Trash enclosure detail is also provided. And security fencing is proposed all around the site. I will mention that security fencing is permitted in the in the Adams Dairy Parkway overlay. However, it must be constructed of quality masonry materials and cannot be located in the required building setbacks. Other materials can be considered in unusual circumstances, but must be limited to the side or rear of the main building. This proposal does have stone columns with a wrought iron fencing in between the columns, and staff does believe that this meets the intent of that fencing requirement. Proposal also shows some signage on the property or on the building, and the east facing and the north facing signage is allowed by the sign code. The west facing, since it doesn't face a street or and it's not above a main entrance, is not allowed. unless the applicant requests through a master alternative sign plan. Either way, it's still all signage on the site needs to be approved by a applicable sign permit. Prior to occupancy, Public Works will require stormwater, sewer, and water improvements, as well as the annexation, dedication, and installation of the road improvements to the proposed right-of-way, as well as the 5-foot sidewalk on 40 Highway. So with that, I'll stand for any questions, but staff does recommend approval of the CUP with 3 conditions and the site plan design review with 2 conditions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Drury? Would the applicant like to come forward?
You sound swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You state,
My name is Jeremy Powell, Powell CWM, 3200 South State Route 291, Independence, Missouri. Staff did a pretty good job describing the project. I will stand for any questions that you have.
are there any questions for the applicant? Mr. Fairbanks?
Currently, Kansas City Bobcat stores a lot of their equipment on the exterior. Is this also going to be outside equipment, and if so, where will it be located?
Yes, that's the purpose for the conditional use permit is to store the equipment. As you see there on the screen, it's on the west side of the property, on the back side. And that will be setting lower than the street level, so it will kind of be screened from the retaining walls. There will be a small display area up there at the top right that'll be elevated to about street level so they can park a few display equipments, but other than that, everything's going to set lower than street grades.
Okay, fine. I just was trying to figure it out mentally, but if
Understood.
that's where it's going to be, and that doesn't require any hard surface.
Yes, it will be of asphalt millings, which will be over time will become just like asphalt, and it'll be dust-free surface.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, they're not.
All right, thank you.
very much. Would anyone like to come and speak in favor of this applicant? Anyone in opposition? Okay. Any other comments? Discussion? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry.
that's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Did you have a question?
No, I just was going to have a question for staff, but we've closed the public hearing.
Was it about who might have responded back?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Took care of you. All right. Thank you. All right. I would entertain a motion for the public hearing conditional use for Casey Bobcat.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lee?
make motion to approve public hearing conditional use permit CUP 1218-6720 with the 3 conditions.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Graham, Commissioner Graham? All right. Well, roll call, please.
Planning Commissioner Peel,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Haney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casey,
Aye.
Commissioner Graham,
Aye.
Commissioner Fairbanks,
Aye.
Chairman
Oh,
Banks.
aye.
Yes.
Yeah, aye. I'm sorry, I was thinking. All right, that motion carried, and we are very glad that Casey Bobcat chose to stay in Blue Springs. So, now, we will go ahead and vote on item 7, since we're with, it's also Casey Bobcat Site Plan and Design Review. I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Haney?
make a motion to approve site plan design review SPDR 1218-6721 Kansas City Bobcat with 2 conditions.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Casey? Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carried, so thank you very much. Now, we'll go to item number 6, which is Stortropolis, the public hearing conditional use permit. I'll open the public hearing, and I'll ask for exhibits to be read by the city attorney.
Madam Chair, I offer the following exhibits into the record. 1, staff report with attachments. 2, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on January 12, 2019. 3, application with attachments. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title IV Land Use Section Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. And 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mallon, we'll hear that and item 8 together, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All
Thank
right.
you, Madam Chair, Planning Commissioners. This is a request for Storetropolis of Blue Springs, a conditional use permit and a site plan design review for a new approximately 135,000 square foot self-storage facility for property located at 3140 Northwest Jefferson Street. The property is approximately 4.59 acres. It's zoned regional commercial as highlighted here on the map, surrounded by the black and white line. The site is currently vacant, as is the site immediately to the west. Immediately to the east is a motel site, and immediately across the street is also vacant property. Pardon me. As you can see in the attached aerial photo, the site is again highlighted in black and white here. There are 3 parcels of land here. In order to develop this site as shown, 2 of these parcels would need to be combined through a minor subdivision, which is an administrative plat process should this get approved. The land use is considered to be storage residential warehouse, which is permitted with approval of conditional use permit in the RC zoning district. The building type is general commercial. After reviewing the proposed elevations and use and given the location, staff determined that the best use or best building type for these storage units would be the general commercial building type due to the proximity to other existing retail and commercial land uses and the desire to have the building have a more commercial appearance rather than industrial along the I-70 corridor. So in working with the applicant, we were able to come to that building type. That building type dictates the setbacks and height requirements for the property, which I will get to in a moment. This is the site plan here. There's one access drive off of Northwest Jefferson Street. Let me back up here. So the site is located south of Northwest Jefferson Street between, and it's east of Woods Chapel Road. Sorry about that. So the site includes 3 buildings, 3 separate buildings, a single 3-story building in the center, which is approximately 100,000 square feet, and then 2 buildings on the east and west side that are 1-story in height. The site plan complies with the minimum required setbacks along Northwest Jefferson Street, as well as the east and west property lines and the south or rear property line adjacent to I-70. All parking and paved areas are 25 feet from the right-of-way, as well as 7 feet from the internal property line, so all of the setbacks have been met. The proposed building height maximum for a general commercial building in the regional commercial zone is 60 feet. And as proposed, the maximum height is roughly 35 feet, so they're well below the maximum height that is permitted. Let me jump to the architectural character here real quick. All 3 buildings utilize the same high-quality design and materials to create a cohesive, unified development appearance. A mix of brick, stucco, embossed architectural insulated wall panels with ribbed steel architectural accent panels and a standing seam metal roof are included. This is the elevation of the primary 100,000 square foot 3-story building. As you can see, it utilizes a mix of brick, stucco, glass windows, and then these are the metal accent panels here. All 4 sides have the same utilization of the same materials, so 360-degree architecture, and the overall building appearance of this is significantly enhanced from what the minimum non-commercial design standards are in the code, and staff considers this to be upgraded architecture. These are the proposed 1-story unit buildings. This is the west building here, primarily garage doors with brick on the north and south elevation. And on the east elevation, the larger building, which is designed to accommodate RV parking, fully enclosed RV parking, utilizes the same stucco, brick, and metal treatments on the exterior portions of the building. The parking for the site is being provided through a number of different parking arrangements. Parking for the residential storage warehouse use is based on one space per 5 storage bays, or one space per 130,000 or per 1,000 square feet, whichever is less. At 135,000 square feet approximately, that's 134 parking spaces, which is a lot of parking for this type of use. Predominantly, as the applicant can point out, when the majority of that parking or of those storage bays are internal to the 3-storage building. So they're, in essence, closet door sized units. And so trying to accommodate that amount of parking on site, based upon what the applicant has told us, they really don't need that much parking on their other facilities. And so what they're proposing is to provide 5 parking spaces striped at the primary entrance to the building. Another 4 to 6 parking spaces are provided internally under the canopy, which you can see in the architectural elevations. Here and here, it's a drive-through, pull-through, so a user can pull in internal to the building and unload their stuff and then take it up into an elevator to one of their units on the 3 stories. So between those spaces in the building, as well as these 5 striped spaces, they're also, as you can see through, where's that drawing? Through this diagram here, they have shown that they can provide an additional 102 parking spaces on site through the open space areas, while still accommodating a 20-foot minimum drive aisle width, which is required by the fire department given the heights of the building. These proposed spaces are proposed not to be striped because there really, in the applicant's mind, isn't a need for them to all be striped, because there's a very small chance that they'll all be utilized. So this drawing is to show that those spaces are able to be provided, and the space exists to accommodate those parking spaces. In addition, this garage bay for the RV parking is intended to be used for the storage and parking of RVs. And as the applicant can point out a little bit further in their explanation to staff about the parking utilization, is that a customer would drive their car in, pull their RV out to take on a trip, and then pull their car that they had there, have the ability to pull that car into that parking space. So it further reduces the amount of parking that could be generated from those RV spaces for that building. So the parking requirement for that building and actual utilization would be reduced. To further comply with the minimum code requirements, they are proposing to accommodate overflow parking on an off-site lot that is also owned by the applicant. That lot is just under 300 feet to the north and west of the proposed storage facility. It is zoned LI, or light industrial. The city code does allow for off-site parking to be provided to help meet the minimum code requirements if that parking is in the same zoning district category or more intense. In this case, the LI zoning district is more intense than the RC zoning district category, and it's located within 300 feet. So this extra storage parking lot is able to be used to meet the code requirements. So there's an additional 82 spaces over there as well. So in total, the parking provided that's being striped, the parking internal to the building, the ability and space for parking within the site that is unstriped, as well as the overflow parking, more than meets the 134 minimum parking spaces required. Very long explanation, I apologize for that. The landscape plan The applicant has requested an alternative compliance landscape plan for the property. They propose to fully meet the buffer requirements and landscape requirements along Northwest Jefferson Street in terms of plant units. They have requested a reduction in the landscape plant unit count along the west or east property line, as well as the west property line and the south property line, approximately 50% of what would normally be required. In terms of plant units, I would like to point out that the buffer area to the east is greater than what is minimally required, as is the buffer area to the south is required at 25 feet. They're providing 30 feet. And there's no additional buffer proposed on the west side of the elevation. Staff looked at the request and the reduced plant units, which is approximately overall about 75% of what is required, so a 25% reduction approximately. And staff believes that through the upgraded architecture that's being provided, in particular along the boundary walls that will serve as a visual buffer to the east, that coupled with the fact that the applicant is proposing a decorative enhanced fence along the north and south property lines through a wrought iron style fence with masonry columns every 40 to 50 feet. That's a significantly upgraded fence than what would normally be required. And even the chain link fence that's proposed along the west elevation would be a vinyl coated or black vinyl coated chain link fence. Is even kind of an upgrade over just a normal chain link fence. So staff believes that the upgrade in the fencing, the upgrade in the architecture of the building and the facade materials, which are significantly higher quality than is typically seen for this type of building and this type of use, those are an acceptable offset to the reduced plant unit counts. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit with 2 conditions, and recommends approval of the site plan design review application subject to 9 conditions contained in the staff report. There are no special use development standards for a residential self-storage warehouse. I just wanted to point that out. So there's no additional standards, kind of like Nathan's on the KC Bobcat. There were these additional standards for that use that needed to be met. There are no additional standards tied to the conditional use permit. Staff finds that the applications meet the condition review criteria for both the conditional use permit and the site plan design review, and comply with all aspects of this Unified Development Code, except as noted herein under the areas such as the alternate landscape plan. There is no signage being proposed at this time. Any signage that comes in would need to comply with code at that time.
Okay.
That concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions before having the applicant make their presentation.
Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Casey, just a moment. I'm sorry.
Go
ahead.
Okay.
You go ahead, Jackie.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to ask about the additional lot for parking at the off-site area. Is there any kind of requirement or anything that would keep them from getting rid of that additional lot in the future and limiting the total number of spaces below the minimum?
The only thing that would allow them to do that is if the code were to be amended at some point that actually reduce the required parking for this use, thereby not this use no longer would need that much parking, but that would have to come through a code amendment, or they could apply for a variance from that at some point. But as long as the code remains the same and as long as there's no variance granted, that parking needs to be provided for this site. So that site is basically encumbered with parking until one of those 2 other items happens.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fairbanks.
I'm real concerned about the lack of landscaping, the percentage that we're reducing the required landscaping by.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there's no landscaping at all on the west boundary. Is that correct?
That is not entirely correct. There is not. It's difficult to see. There is
I can't see any.
There are areas of shrub beds being provided. If I can get you down here. Oh, could be very. Oops. Hold on. I think it's 234. Sorry, I had to zoom in way. At the scale of the drawings, it's difficult to see, but they are providing some shrub beds, and they're just kind of hidden by the line work here. There's a row of shrub beds here, as well as here. Additionally, kind of along this portion here and here. So the balance of that would be turf or mulch of some sort. So to fill in that 7-foot area.
So there's no trees there.
No, not currently proposed.
Is there potential to have some trees there or additional trees on the southern area? I know they're talking about the masonry fence columns and the wrought iron columns every 50 feet, which is a pretty good distance to not have anything breaking that up.
I would leave that to the applicant to answer.
Okay.
There's certainly the potential to add more landscaping in, and staff would not object to any more landscaping being proposed, but this is what they have requested.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for the applicant, for the staff? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, would the applicant like to come forward? And you will need to be sworn in.
Sure. Raise your hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, so help you God. State your name.
Doug Coleman.
Would you speak into the mic when you do that? Thank you.
Doug Coleman, Hunt Midwest.
Michael Knight, Hunt Midwest.
And you need the addresses? Yes, so if you will.
The company address, or
That'd be fine.
8300 Northeast Underground Drive, Kansas City, Missouri,
Just a
64.
second. She's trying to write that down.
Okay.
Okay, now say that again.
8300 Northeast Underground Drive, Kansas City, Missouri, 64161.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, while he's handing those out, go ahead and get started. Again, with Hunt Midwest, there's some information on there, kind of the timeline of the Hunt Midwest company. We're owned by the Lamar Hunt's family, which we're still trying to recover from last week's game. But so anyway, we're a full-service real estate company out of Kansas City. We do about every food group, multifamily, data centers, residential, industrial, assisted living, which we've already done one location just a few blocks from where we're doing the self-storage, which is called Benton House. We did that a few years ago. 2 years ago, we got into the self-storage business. We have a partner, Strickland Construction, who's built hundreds of these, and he also has a third-party management company called Attic Management. So he's managing hundreds of those too. So he's kind of our operating partner and helps build those. This is our fourth self-storage we've done. 2 are open now, doing real well. The third one will be open the second quarter of next year. The branding, we call it Storatropolis, and we have an asset called Subtropolis. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a large underground up by Worlds of Fun, so we're trying to tie into that because we have storage there. So, again, that's our fourth one. You might just keep going, but we'll just briefly talk about the site. But basically, they're around 90,000 square feet, all 4 that we've done. This will be the 4th one. We have a fully enclosed 4 to 6 loading, unloading bays. So you drive through and then you're completely enclosed. The elevator is well lit, and we'll have small and large unit configurations. We'll also have RV, climate controlled RV storage. So if you go to the last few pages, that's what I really wanted to. This is the pictures of one of our locations. We just opened it. It's at 152 in Brighton in Kansas City, Missouri. And this kind of gives you an idea. It'll be real similar to this. Just give you an idea. So if you have any questions, we have Olson, our associates, our engineer, And Henley, our architect here, too, if we have any questions.
Okay. All right, is there any questions for the applicant?
My question about the landscaping on the south side and the west side of this proposal.
When we worked with staff to create the elevations, as Mr. Malone mentioned, our elevations are above and beyond what are required for the development. We were concerned with the future growth of the trees and the visibility from the highway. We have nothing against vegetation, it's just we wanted to have a little bit of visibility on the property in the future. And we looked around at other self-storage developments in the area that have a very sparse planting scheme around them, and worked with Mr. Malone to provide the planting counts that were required up on Northwest Jefferson, but reduce them around the remainder of the perimeters. And at the same time, we provided the wrought iron fence detail on the south and the north with the brick pilasters.
I think the wrought iron is very good benefit. But to me, it still is going to have a gaping hole for every 50 feet to not have much vegetation there. And I don't know whether or not you're going to have a lot of highway traffic utilize your facility. I would think that it would be more local.
We hope for both.
We all.
I think, can I ask you a question? I think that having gaping sections might be for security reasons, so that, it exposes the building as well.
Yeah, I don't know if gaping sections.
Well, I mean, you can see that there's a building.
Yeah, and with the fact that most elevations, the garage doors don't even face the street.
It's just going to be a wall.
The building itself,
Right.
buffered by trees, and then on the south side, you'll have the wrought iron fence with the pilasters.
I don't think it would be noticed that much. I mean, that part of it.
Yeah, I think you'll find that and I know we're talking about requirements here, I think you'll find that the site's planted at a more robust level than most of the other sites that provide self-storage or even in the area. And we feel it's a quality product and quality elevations.
All right, are there any other questions for the applicant? Yes, Commissioner Casey?
Would you be open to looking at adding some additional plant units?
We would be. We could work with staff on adding some in strategic spots.
I think I would also like to see that. My other question is around the alternative parking area. It's kind of across the road there. Is there a way for people to walk? Is there a sidewalk there or something? Or what's the plan for getting them from the parking lot to your facility?
I believe on the north side of Jefferson, there exists a sidewalk. And blow up on it.
Fortunately,
There is a sidewalk on the south side. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's the north or south.
There is, man. Yeah, we believe there is a sidewalk on either the north or south
Okay.
side of Jefferson. And then as part of this development, they will be required to install a 5-foot sidewalk along their property frontage along Jefferson. So there will be pedestrian access.
Thank you.
I do have a question. The parking lot right next to yours that you're proposing as overflow, they have blocked it off to where the rigs can't park there anymore. So if you open yours up, are you going to have any restrictions to the people that can use it? Because otherwise the rigs that have been parking there are going to come right over and use yours.
Yeah, we realize that if we just had a free-for-all parking lot, we probably wouldn't have a parking lot after 6 months with all the rigs coming in and tearing it up.
Mhm.
We'd have to put up some secure gates to restrict access.
But that's not supposed to be for somebody just to come in and park their RV and not pay to park it inside or in one of the other units, or what are you going to just use it for? What do you mean overflow parking?
Well, right now it's being used as overflow parking for the use down the street of the site we're submitting, and no other use.
No, but is it going to be overflow parking or storage?
Overflow. Overflow.
Overflow. Okay.
I think that the Hunt Midwest people don't think that they're going to need overflow parking. And the only reason they're offering this up is because it needs to meet the requirements.
That is absolutely correct.
I think that they don't believe they're going to need that extra parking. So it probably will just be a vacant lot that they'll keep mowed.
Well, I don't know if they can mow that, all of it, so. Okay. Well, very good. I just thought I'd ask because I know that the other side's been blocked off for some reason, and I didn't want it to be wind up overflow for them.
Yep.
Thank you.
Fair questions.
Okay. Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Oh, sorry.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am?
Madam Chair, I've marked the supplemental packet presented by Storetropolis of Blue Springs as Exhibit 9.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Commissioner?
Chair? Mr. Coleman or Mr. Knight? As far as security, or do you have security set up for this project?
There'll be a secured access point on the site. During the hours of business, there'll be a manager on site, and after hours, it'll, I believe between the hours of 6 or 10
10
p.m.
at night, 6 in the morning.
No access
No
allowed.
access
Right.
during those hours, except for special situations.
But there's nobody on site, is that correct?
Right, that's correct.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Do I have anyone that would like to speak in favor of this? In opposition? Any other comments by the commissioners?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Kind of have 3 points. First, I'd like to ask staff if there were any letters of opposition that were received.
No, sir.
And this is probably more of a discussion topic, but with there being already a storage area that was across Woods Chapel, this project could have a parasitic effect on that, as far as maybe pulling away customers that already use that storage area. And number 2, I'm not sure this is a proper business for this area, but that's my feelings on this project.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Fairbanks?
Where is the other storage area on Woods Chapel?
It's actually right across Woods Chapel. There's a cell tower that you hit first before you keep heading west, but it's almost directly west of this property, but it's across Woods Chapel.
If you take Woods Chapel and you go on exit going west on I-70, it's along the outer road, the ones along the, you have to go off of Woods Chapel, which you probably don't ever do.
I lived off of Woods Chapel.
Well, I mean, you know, it's
30
not,
years.
I know.
Obviously, I wasn't looking to the right.
Right, that's what I
Obviously,
mean.
I wasn't looking to the right.
There's, now you'll probably think of it, because see, you just don't
I know
notice
there used
it.
to be a parking lot there, a MoDOT parking lot.
Right, correct.
And is it right beyond
Uh-huh.
that?
Right,
Thank
correct.
you.
I knew you would.
And also, Chair, since we have this other storage project down on 40 Highway, I'm not sure we need another king-size storage in Blue Springs.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
My thought on that is we have a new auto parts factory getting ready to open, right?
Farcia.
Forcia, and there will be lots of 300 employees there. So they're probably going to use extra storage space.
Well, the nice thing, the only thing is that we've had the same storage units for a long time, and I guess they've kept busy. These are new because they're indoor. And they're small and large, so I don't know. I don't know what the need is in our community. I guess we've grown so much, we need more. Okay, well,
Madam Chair.
yes.
All right. I just wanted to ask, do we need to take any action as far as a condition with regards to the landscape tonight to ensure that we get some additional plant
Mr.
units,
Brown?
or is that something that we could address at a later time?
I don't know, have they met the requirement?
On the east side, they have not, or on the west property line, they have not, if that's the primary concern, or is it the south property line? I think staff would need a little bit more direction as to how much more landscaping, or just leaving it up to staff and the applicant to work together. Is it a certain percentage increase or a few more trees to allow staff and the applicant time to work it out between now and the building permit timing? You know, that's typically how things can happen, as well as adding a condition or something.
I'm just concerned about the south elevation and the west elevation.
Okay.
South and the west. And I know that evergreen trees do block. I know that deciduous trees do leaf. And to me, that's a part of doing business, is keeping up your landscaping to make sure your property looks presentable. And I know that you can use vinyl fencing that looks like wrought iron. And I don't know whether they're planning wrought iron, or vinyl that looks like wrought iron.
I believe they're planning to use a metal that looks like wrought iron. So not wrought iron material, but aluminum or some other metal that looks like wrought iron, which is, to be honest, most wrought iron style fencing is that material. Very,
Rather than being wrought iron.
Yes.
Because wrought iron requires a lot of maintenance.
Yes, and it's also considerably more expensive.
Yeah.
So staff could work with the applicant and to increase the amount of landscaping on the west and south elevations by adding some additional trees. It sounds like that's the primary concern.
Right.
And we can work with them to do that between now and the building permit level.
Okay, because I think that if you have a 3-story building, I doubt that you're going to have any trees that are going to tower over that and block it.
Mm-hmm.
Your average tree height is not 60 feet. So I don't know whether that should be an additional condition of the approval, or how to best work it.
I'm not sure either, since I haven't been put in this position either. Let me ask a quick question.
You can add whatever if you want to make when I close it, if you want to add anything, I don't know, you'd have to add, Tony.
I think there's a way the
If
applicant
you want to
can
come
address it.
forward, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I tell you what, to take away the subjectivity of any of this, if we need to comply with the standards fully, we can just do that.
Wonderful.
That works for me.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, and one other item, just so everyone's can get comfortable. We do extensive market studies and research before we invest in communities with projects like this. And Chairwoman Banks' assumption was correct, that this is a new product for the area, and we do believe that there's a demand for this. There's actually a demand for more than one self-storage facilities that come back in the market study. So I don't think we're going to see an oversupply, from our opinion.
Right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
over here.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Oh,
If I may.
Councilman.
There's two things I would like to remind everyone. The Planning Commission is not to be trying to make decisions on whether a business will or will not be successful. It's to look at what, if it meets all those requirements. And if you're going to change the requirements on the landscaping, I would suggest that you do that when you make your motion.
Correct.
They just said that they would comply.
But that's not, it's got to be a condition.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other comments? Very good. All right, is there any, I don't think I, did I close?
No.
Have I already? I can't remember if I asked if anybody's in favor or opposed. We kind of got, okay, I think I did. So I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing. All right, so I would entertain a motion on the public hearing conditional use first.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Graham?
I would move for approval of the conditional use permit CUP-12-186715 with the 2 staff conditions.
Okay. Are you going to make any additional none?
I think those would go on the site plan design review as opposed to the CUP.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we have a motion with the 2 conditions.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Casey? All right, roll call, please.
Planning Commissioner Peel,
Nay?
Commissioner Sanderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Haney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casey,
Aye.
Commissioner Graham,
Aye.
Commissioner Fairbanks,
Aye.
Chairman Banks.
Aye. Motion carried, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, now we'll go on down to the site plan and design review with the 9 conditions. Do I hear a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Casey?
I move that SPDR 12186716 Storetropolis be approved with the 9 staff conditions and an additional condition for the to be fully in compliant with the landscaping requirements.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. First and a second. So we have actually 10 conditions?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, we've had a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Very good. Thank you and welcome to Blue Springs. And then, okay, any other business?
The next scheduled meeting is Monday, February 11th. We do have some items for you that evening. We'll be bringing forward some UDC amendments to the Unified Development Code, as well as, I believe, a final plat. And we will also have a presentation from staff on the S2 area plan that staff has been working on for the past 6 months or longer to present that plan to you and kind of discuss the process we went through and give you that information for that area plan. And that is all that we have on that evening so far.
Okay, thank you. Any other news? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.